Hi. So today I just wanted to give a brief story about me and who I am and what I've been doing. So, hi, I'm Sema Martin. I am a professional pet portrait artist, and I've been a pet portrait artist now for 9 years, nearly 10. It'll be 10 in January. That's when I officially started taking commissions. So that's sort of where I count from. So it started way back in 2016 when my friend had asked me to draw her cat, and I was so poor at the time because I just finished my second master's and I was in between waiting for my PhD to start. I didn't have a job. I was literally like, that sort of in between poor stage of having literally no money, can't buy food. So my friend was like, can you draw my cat? It passed away. I know you're good at art because she knew me from school, and she just really wanted me to draw her cat. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. I'd love to. And then she was like, oh, I'll pay you 50 quid. And I was like, oh, money. Yes, okay, I definitely will, because up until that point, I had just been doing these kinds of things as gifts. I'd drawn people's pets for their birthdays and for Christmas. I'd drawn people themselves, like my friends, portraits of them for their birthdays. So up until that point, it wasn't really like a thing. I was just doing it as a hobby. It was my pastime. It wasn't my job. I was an engineer. So I didn't really think that I could charge for it since I wasn't a professional. But since she'd offered and I needed the money, I was like, yes, please. I would love to draw for you and for you to pay me. So I went away and I drew it. I literally had no clue what I was doing though, because even though I had been, a hobby artist, I didn't know much about pencils and paper. I mostly knew more about oils. I did a lot of oil painting in the past. So pencils and paper was actually very new to me at the time. I literally had printer paper. I didn't realize how wrong I was at the time. I had printer paper and a little tin of W.H. Smith pencils. And anyone who's English would know what W.H. Smith is. It's like a big stationery store. They do hold good brands like Winsor and Newton, but I didn't have them. I had their own brand pencils, which again wasn't the best, but I did my best with the materials that I had. It turned out quite good, very proud of it. I even put it in a mount with a ribbon. Like I literally tried my best to make it look like a beautiful finished piece. I didn't have any money to frame it or anything, but she didn't ask for me to frame it anyway. I just put it in a mount with a little grey ribbon that I'd had from a gift box, because again I didn't have the money to even buy a ribbon. But at the end it just looked like a really lovely gift, and when I gave it to her she cried, which was the first time I've ever made someone cry, I guess, from a gift. It's like a weird feeling, isn't it, when someone cries with happiness from something that you've given them, and that feeling really stuck with me, obviously, because now I'm still doing it 9 years later. And it was just such a wonderful way to have created something that someone is now going to treasure literally for the rest of their lives, because they'll never stop loving their pet that has passed away, which means they'll never stop enjoying your art, which is really lovely to think about, really. So when I posted that pet portrait online on Facebook at the time, I wasn't really looking for anything. I just thought, well, actually it was my husband's idea. He said post it in one of your Facebook groups and see what happens. And I thought, oh well, I might as well. We still don't have any money. Let's see how I can do with this. So I posted a picture of the portrait that I'd created saying, this is Tigger. He unfortunately passed away, but I was honoured to be able to draw him, and lots of really just, very grateful kind of messaging in that post, because I just really wanted to show my appreciation that my friend had trusted me to pay me as well for this portrait. And I posted that, and then a lot of people, well, it started off with a few people. A few people started messaging me saying, oh, I'd love one of my cat, can you draw mine? So I started taking commissions, and then I posted that same picture. I actually posted it in about 50 different cat groups. That's when I thought, oh, this would be a really great way to actually find cat lovers, is to go to Facebook cat groups. So that's what I did at the time. I posted in about 50, not just one. In about 50, I got over £2,500 worth of commissions, and at the time that's a lot considering I was charging very little. I was charging about £80 per portrait, so that's like an A3 size for 80 quid. And that worked for me because I was very new, I wasn't established, and normally that is what you should be doing when you're trying to establish yourself as an artist. You can't you can't expect people to pay so much if they don't know who you are, if you don't have a body of work, if you don't have the experience to back up your claims, I guess, as someone who's charging so much. So because I was starting literally from the very beginning, I've got a few years of doing GCSEs and A-levels as art. I have zero business experience, zero actual taking commissions experience. So it made sense to be cheap, to build up my portfolio, to get a lot of commissions under my belt. And that's exactly what I did. And that really, really helped me to establish myself in the world of creating art for other people. And I'm very grateful for that, and very grateful to some of those customers who are still with me today. They trusted me back then, and they still trust me now to create portraits for them and their loved ones. So thank you for that. And so as things grew, I started my PhD, but I was still making money from the pet portraits. And then I was straddling these two worlds, I was like, I'm not really into my PhD anymore. I really just want to draw pets. I want to draw cats. I want to make people happy. I want to do the thing that I feel like I enjoy most of all out of, anything in the world. And I never quite felt like that with my career, even though my career was fun and exciting. Drawing was always my first love, colouring and creating things that made people happy will always make me happy. And so that's what I chose to do. So 6 months later, it took me about 6 months to decide this and to build up the courage for it. I had about I think I had a year's waiting list at the time of quitting my PhD. So I had a year worth of people waiting for me to draw their pet, and I quit my job. I just sent in the email saying, I'm done, basically. My advisor didn't really mind. I don't think he was really into it anyway, but that's for another story. And I was obviously very, very scared taking the leap. And I'm not saying that everyone should. The pet portrait business is something that you can always do on the side of your job. It's very easy to take as many commissions as you need and as you want, and then close commissions and then open them again when you need commissions. So it's just so easy to keep it as a side hustle, as a hobby. My issue is that I wanted to do it more than my job, and I had no interest in doing my job anymore. So if you're at that stage, then it's time to start planning of how you can transition. But it's totally okay if you don't want to transition. That is fine too. That's what I love about pet portrait commissions, specifically commissions in general. You can just do it on the side of what you're already doing, and it's fine. You can still be just as successful, in my opinion anyway. So when I had quit my PhD and I started full time, I remember that first morning waking up, not having to go to my PhD, and I got to sit down at the kitchen table at the time and start drawing, and I could just draw all day, and it was fantastic. I very quickly realized that I couldn't just draw all day. I had to actually do some marketing, do some social media, reply to emails. I made a website and all that kind of stuff. So it turned more into like a 60-40. So 60% drawing, 40% all of the other stuff. And then that's when I started really leaning into the business side of things. And I guess that's where my passion for teaching other artists how to run a business really comes from, because I learned from scratch. I learned from example of me doing it myself, making the mistakes, learning from what I was doing, learning how to do it, finding the research and compiling it for my own benefit. Because, you know, in terms of business, it's always the same formula. You find your target audience, you find where they hang out, you talk to them in their language with their messaging. You know, it's the same structure. It's never different. But what I couldn't find was something that was a bit simpler for artists, something that I could implement. So say I want to know how to write a social media post as a pet portrait artist. How do I speak to my customer? I want to know how to write an email as a pet portrait artist. How do I be professional in that way? I want to know what kind of things I should be writing on my website as a pet portrait artist. And back then, these things weren't easily found. There were pet portrait artists online. I was very inspired by a few of them on Instagram, but because it was still so early on in the process, there wasn't many examples of things that were working out there. So I had to gather the information for myself. And then 4 years later, I wrote my book, Art is My Career, How to Start an Art Business. And that really was a compilation of literally everything that I had learned, that I'd made a note of, that I'd written down, that I was excited to tell others about. Because as my business grew, I got a lot of artists asking me, you know, how are you doing this? So instead of just always, you know, sending them articles and just pages and pages of writing, I'll put it in a book. It's easier that way. So that's exactly what I did. And I'm so proud of that. It was the first book I've written, especially as a dyslexic. I literally never thought that I would write a book. I find it so hard to read, let alone write one. But with a lot of help with my husband, he helped me edit it, the whole thing, which was, you know, so helpful. It wouldn't be as easy to read today if he hadn't helped me. So, and also I really had the idea of it feeling like I love school. So I wanted it to feel like an exercise book, you know, how they have proper chapters with, like, you know, little summaries at the end of what you've learned in the chapter, and as well little topics at the beginning from what you're going to be learning in each chapter. And that's exactly how I set it out. I was really excited about that, color coordinated it. Oh my gosh, the best thing about it was the photo shoot. So me and my husband did this huge photo shoot with it. I got loads of, like, it was sort of like Boss Babe vibes. So I got loads of colourful suits from Boohoo. And so every chapter is a different colour. So I was wearing a different coloured suit for every chapter. If you haven't seen it, you have to go and see it. It's just so funny. It was very fun to make. It was really enjoyable. And so the whole photo shoot and the story behind doing the book just really, like, I guess, amplified my love for the business in general for pet portraits. And not just that, but I feel like now, instead of working on the business side of things, I'm now working on the art side of things. So, like, over the last 9 years, I've been building my business, progressing my business to a point where it is consistent, it is sustainable. Like, I can just send an email and get commissions when I need to. Like, that was the point. That was the point of building my name, building my reputation, building my audience of customers that can trust in me and rely on me to provide a service that they love and that's a good go-to service if they need a gift or if they want something for themselves. And it was really important for me to create that reputation that can continue if I dip in and out, which has shown. This whole year I've done 0 commissions. I sent out an email last week and I've still got customers coming back to me, you know, and that's because they remember what I did for them last time. I was so professional, I was so on it, I was able to produce exactly what they needed and they wanted, and now they're happy to come back to me, some of them like 6 years later. You know, so you never really know how long it will take for people to come back to you. So you need to keep that professionalism and keep going with that whole vibe of just being what people need at the time. And that was something that was really, really important to me. So now I'm working on the art side of things. I felt a little bit stuck with coloured pencil. I felt like moving on. And then I realised actually I don't know much about colour pencil. I haven't actually studied it. Even though, yes, I can draw, I can copy a picture really well, but I can't draw. I can't do it, you know, like how an old master would do it. So that's what I've been concentrating on this year, and it's just been very exciting to take colour in a whole new level. I've been doing lots of colour theory, limited colour palettes, using different mediums and materials, different papers. I literally had stuck to the same paper for 6 years. And yes, everyone should stick to something if it works. But I felt like as an artist, I wasn't developing because I was stuck to the same paper for 6 years. So this year I've tried 6, 7 different papers. I know that's not a lot, but it's a lot when you've been doing one for 6 years. So I'm very excited about the opportunities there is with coloured pencil and with learning colour theory. Colour theory is one of those words that, you know, scares people. It scared me. I was like, oh no, colour theory, I don't know anything about that. It's too hard. It's too difficult to think about. But now, because I've been breaking it down and actually trying to learn it, it's actually so simple. I used to get scared of a colour wheel. It's like, oh, I don't know how to use that. But now I really enjoy it. I really love picking up a few pencils and trying to figure out how to mix them, how to make it look better, thinking about complementary colours and all that kind of stuff. There's stuff that I never really thought of before. I was just looking at the picture and thinking, okay, well, that's this kind of brown, that's this kind of yellow, you know, and it's great, it worked, but now I feel like I'm falling in love with the art side more. Just like I did with the business, I'm starting from scratch. I'm picking up, pretending I know nothing about colour pencil. I didn't have 9 years of experience, and just pretending I'm starting from scratch like I did with the business side of things, and just learning as much as I can from books, from YouTube, from especially very old colour pencil books. Incredibly useful. I will show you all the books. I'll do a little book session, I guess. Yeah, a book session, and I'll show you all the colour pencil books that I've bought and that I've been using to learn colour pencil, if that's something that you're interested in too. And that has been just a game changer, honestly. I have absolutely loved doing that. So yeah, I'm Sema Martin. I'm a professional artist, and please follow me on this journey as I teach you about how I'm doing my pet portrait business, as well as learning more about pet portraits themselves. And if you want to know more about running your own pet portrait business or commissioned based business, then you can click the link below. I've got so much information for you.